Hello, everyone. I come before you as a humbled man. Like Tyrion said, I was a fool. You know, I didn't do so great on the predictions last week, but it was difficult. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying it was difficult to guess exactly how they were going to go. You never know how somebody else is going to work the same story the exact same way you would do it, which really screws up my projections this week. But one of my original predictions might still end up being correct. Okay, so what I fell at. I said a group of them would go south. And that didn't happen because everything has to happen so quickly. Uh, they're rushing. What's weird is they're kind of rushing everything, but at the same time, everything is really slowly moving, right? Like it's all this backstory, and it was really well done. The whole episode was well done, but I guess there's just not enough time to go anywhere. So that could end up being. It doesn't look like that could. I don't think that could happen next week either, but I'm not positive on that just yet. So I don't know, but I think that's probably going to be filled. I was thinking that Jon and Daenerys, because there was so much pushback between the two of them, that they would get married in this last episode, and it didn't happen. Well, I think I said episodes 2 or 3, but now I'm kind of worried about that because, especially with the Night King already being there, I thought the marriage was going to take place first, so it can kind of allay some of the fears and get rid of that. But that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So possible things I got right. Initially, after I watched episode 1 with my friends over at Matt's house with Chris and Nadia and Monica and Brant and Roe and all my other friends, we were watching it, and afterwards we had a long conversation about what was going to happen. And my first guess, because I can't buy the idea that Jon and Winterfell itself is going to defeat the Night King and then go down to King's Landing. I think that's a very poor way to do a story, so I don't believe it. I don't believe that's going to happen. But I said the Night King might sweep around, and I think that is still a possibility, and I'll explain that here in a second. Another thing I possibly got right was Jaime and Brienne. It looks like that's going to be a little bit interesting too. So let's kind of go through a little bit of episode 2, and then I'll get into my episode 3 predictions. The first scene, it starts off extremely well. I think that's a powerful scene. The whole Jaime coming before the Queen and Sansa and Jon, and then Brienne telling that story about when he had saved her from being raped, because that was, and then he ends up losing his hand, and she helps him fight the bear. All that other stuff that happens. I love that. I love those scenes back then, and it all finally came back to fruition, which is pretty cool how they worked that all out. But I had a feeling though, because they didn't show her in the first episode, I had a feeling she was going to play a role for Jaime, but I wasn't positive how it'd work out. So during that piece, so when Brad says the things we do for love, it was like, oh my God. Like it's such, oh man, it makes me laugh every single time. I think I've watched the episode like 4 times now. Some other parts I loved when Jon, Sam, and I can't think of the other guy's name, who is the commander of the Night's Watch right now, when he says, and now our watch begins. You know, it's those 3 after they've survived this whole journey together, and they kind of all come back together for the scene, which I thought was awesome. Tormund Giantsbane, it's being memed all over the internet right now. The Tormund's milk, it's just hilarious. It's extremely hilarious, and then he's like doing this weird like peacocking display, showing how manly he is by drinking his horn, and telling a story about how, when he was a 10-year-old boy, he killed a giant and then suckled the giant's wife's tit for 3 months. I think it's hilarious. I think it's great. You have Arya Gendry, which is, people are complaining about it on the internet about, oh my gosh, I guess like one of the things that was like the most Googled piece afterwards was Arya's age. And I think she's like 18 by now. But people are like freaked out by that. But in season 1, Daenerys is like 13 or 14, and she's getting raped by Khal Drogo. But everybody loves him. They're like, but initially he's like raping her, and then eventually she falls in love with him, and then she takes command. So we've had more horrific things happen to other characters than just consensual sex between Arya and Gendry. And then you have Brienne knighted. That was a great scene. Extremely well done. The storytelling is well done. Her reaction is perfect. Like, it is so good. It is so good. Like, I really enjoy that. You have Theon and Sansa. That's an interesting little pairing, because of the whole. I wonder how that's going to work out, because in the book, Sansa is not. She's not with the bastard of Bolton. The bastard Bolton, whatever. She's not even there, so it's kind of weird that they'd have this piece in the show, because then they survive that together, and then it's kind of a weird. Towards the end, there's kind of a weird scene between them as well, where they're kind of like they have this commonality, this common event that happened to both of them that was traumatic. So there's something there, and Sansa's always been really mistreated by men anyway, so she probably wouldn't even care that Theon doesn't have a penis. Then you get to Jon telling Daenerys that he's actually likely a Targaryen, and she kind of pushes back a little bit, but I think. Well, yeah, I guess one of the things that hasn't happened yet is they didn't get to meet with Bran and Sam like I thought, but everything's kind of moved. Like, that whole storyline was kind of rushed, it seems like. They were just like, he just kind of randomly tells her at the end, right before, of course, it's also right before the White Walkers get there, too, so they can't have a conversation about it. So you have no idea how that's going to work out fully. So I'm not too sure about that just yet, but I still think the whole idea of her being able to get more information from Bran, well, I don't know, or Sam, I think it's still a possibility, but maybe she'll just accept it. Maybe she'll just accept that he's a Targaryen, but it seems weird. Like, that seems to be on uneven footing, because she doesn't trust it initially either. She's like, so you heard this from your brother and your best friend? Like, I totally get it. All right. So then you have the ending scene. I thought the ending scene was extremely well done. The whole, basically showing all these different groups of people who love each other, and I also love the whole when Brienne was knighted, with her and Jaime and Pod, and Tormund, Tyrion, and the Onion Knight. That was a great scene. Really well done. Really well done scene with the whole thing, and then the whole ending was kind of a play. It seems like something similar. Also really well done. It's just all these people that love each other. They're all brought here for this one moment. And we're possibly going to lose a lot of them soon, maybe. So I thought that was all extremely well done. All right, and I guess I didn't explain the hat. This is my knitted Viking helmet, and I put this on to help me channel some good predictions. Unlike last week, because I really screwed up, and I feel like I just let people down already, and I should have known better. I just threw it out there, and it's my fault. That's on me. So what was absent from this episode? The Night King, which makes me wonder if my very first prediction of what he was up to is still a possibility. Right after I watched episode 1 with everybody, I thought that, okay, we can't end at King's Landing, at least not the idea of, okay, beat the Night King, who's been the biggest bad guy of the entire series, and that's been talked about, like, winter is coming from book 1, that, and you lead on this whole journey, and then he's not the final, like, it's not the end, that's not like, that seems to me like it must be the end. So King's Landing, I've always said, I think King's Landing has to be dealt with first, or they're going to run kind of simultaneously. The Night King nor the dragon are at the battle. At least doesn't show him streak across the sky. But you think about it. You get all these people on foot. They can travel. I mean, these guys travel 24 hours a day anyway, and they also have horses and things like that. Well, he's traveling on a dragon. He can go and raise an army and take out other places. I'm like, the Umbers were destroyed. Of course, I can't think exactly what's on the map. But he can go raise an army, and he could potentially attack King's Landing before Winterfell's ever attacked. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen, but I think that is a possibility of him going down and raising. So because they talk about it in the book, or maybe it was in the show, they talk about more people being in King's Landing than the entire North. I think there's like 1 million people or something like that in King's Landing. Most of these are just going to be peasants. I mean, easy to kill. Like, if he has any army whatsoever, plus he has a dragon, that dragon could just murder things. He could kill a tremendous amount of people and build they could build like the largest army that would be completely undefeatable of a million people and come and completely surround Winterfell, which in my head makes a little bit of sense, but I won't get into that prediction just yet. Yeah, another thing that was absent, no scenes from King's Landing, which made me start really, when I saw that the Night King wasn't there, thinking about no scenes from King's Landing. It's kind of interesting. And also Bronn never shows up. So Bronn's definitely not there yet. Plus it'd be weird if he shows up during the battle. It seems weird to me. Like, I don't know. Like, especially if he's worried about death, it doesn't seem like he's going to come up there and try to kill Tyrion and Jaime. That doesn't make sense. So, and I don't know. Like, I actually saw a couple of the predictions this time from other people, and I don't know that I agree with them. Somebody was saying that maybe that we won't have any scenes from King's Landing this time too. I don't know about that. I think that's possible, but one thing I also think is definitely possible is the start of episode 3 is at King's Landing, and it's actually going back a little bit so that the two storylines can catch up, can merge together. And sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. But what could happen is they'll kind of rewind time, like they're not like they're trying to merge the storylines together, but they have to start about what happened at King's Landing. It's probably already happened, is my guess. And maybe it's some of the White Walkers or the Night King coming to King's Landing. That would actually make some sense, and then it kind of tells that story. And I don't know how exactly that'll work. I don't know. I mean, I know there's Daenerys has a vision in the House of the Undying in the book and in the show, and I think they're two different things, but I think one of them has to do with her coming into King's Landing. It looks like it's either destroyed and winter has already come, and there's like nobody there. So I don't know if that's actually a prediction or if it's just a metaphor for winter coming and her not being able to get the throne or something like that. I don't know, but it could be about King's Landing and the fall of King's Landing, which would make sense. And I think here's what I'll say about that. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying that if King's Landing fell, like there was some speculation maybe Cersei won't die. And I guess it's a possibility. The way you would do that is you have King's Landing fall, and you have Cersei trying to get out of King's Landing. She could escape by sea as well with Euron, or she could try to head north, and she ends up going to Winterfell. I don't know if that's gonna be a possibility because she could just go off. I don't know where she would go. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem like she could just leave. It seems to me like it's a possibility they could get stuck north of King's Landing, running to Winterfell. The Night King closing in. You get all the main characters at Winterfell, completely surrounded by all the White Walkers and the Night King. Which I think that's at least a possibility in terms of what's going on right now. And maybe nothing goes on at King's Landing. Maybe they do still send people south. I don't know. So I think maybe we start with King's Landing, and it kind of tells part of that story, and then winter comes down there as well. And then you also, of course, you're gonna have the whole battle. Look, because I've already seen some of the previews for next time. Looks like the whole battle's gonna begin. They've already tried to work out a plan where Bran's gonna be in the Godswood or whatever, and he's gonna try to get the Night King to come there to him. It seems like this plan's probably gonna fail initially because I don't think the Night King's there. So I think that's going to be, I think what's going to happen, if I had to guess, I would say this time Winterfell is going to repel the attack. And it's because the Night King isn't there. The Night King isn't there just yet. They're going to fight back this army, but the Night King is going to show up with more reinforcements and the biggest army. Like, Winterfell actually, you think they could possibly win maybe even. And the Night King shows up with the largest army you could ever have, completely undefeatable, so many people that you could never stop it. And then eventually, we're going to get that. I think one thing that's going to happen, okay, there's a couple pieces here. Because there's going to be so many people that are going to be in the crypt. That's one thing I want to talk about. Another thing, I think Tyrion, based on all of his mistakes, like he's had a ton of mistakes, I think he's going to be the one to come up with a plan that actually wins this war. And I think it makes sense. I think it completely makes sense with Tyrion having the idea. Like, it's going to come from him because he's had all these mistakes. This is going to be his time for redemption. I think that part makes sense. I think another part that makes sense is if they keep getting pushed back, Jon's army, Daenerys' army, to keep getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, because their dragons I think are going to be almost useless. I think they'll probably, maybe we will get an eye candy battle between Daenerys and Jon on dragons versus a Night King on a dragon. I could see that being, because I mean, think about how good that would look, right? I know it might be hokey, but at the same time, it'll look good. Other than that, I think it's very possible Winterfell gets overwhelmed, everybody gets pushed back into the crypt, and the Starks, and this might be a little far fetched, but it's just an idea I've been playing with, and I think it's a very good possibility. The Starks in the crypt come to life, and they help defeat the Night King's army, or at least help protect the people that are down there. And that has something to do. Maybe that has something to do even with how this ends and how the ending works out. I'm not sure, but I think that's a very good possibility. Because you're talking about potentially Ned, Caitlyn, because Caitlyn's actually, she comes back in the books as Lady Stoneheart, which you don't get this at all. Like, she's kind of like Benjen was, well, but she's like an evil version where she's trying to get redemption. Or not redemption, she's trying to get revenge on everyone. So she's just killing everyone. And that's who she is now. And like, she's hunting down Freys and she's just killing them. It's Lady Stoneheart. It's Caitlyn. I could see them bringing Caitlyn, Ned, and all them back in the crypt to protect, the families. And there's always that saying, there always needs to be a Stark in Winterfell or something like that. I think that makes sense. I think that makes some kind of sense down there about what potentially could happen. And then if that happened, I don't know that that could even happen at all. No idea. But if that did happen, then Jon potentially would get to talk to his mother, even though it would be his mother's ghost, or however that would work. Or maybe it's not ghost. Maybe it would be reanimated body. I don't know. I do think this is going to happen, though, like through Uncle Benjen, how he come back to life and he was fighting for good. I think that is maybe a precursor to what happens to Starks when this goes on. So I think that's a very good possibility. So next time I think we're going to possibly start in King's Landing. If not, maybe they will push off King's Landing one more, and we'll have this entire battle, and then you're going to find out what happened in King's Landing. If they don't show King's Landing as the next one, though, I'm going to tell you that by the next episode, I'm going to say that King's Landing, it's going to do that same thing like I just said. It's going to be with Cersei, everything's going fine. White Walkers show up, and especially if they postpone another episode, I think King's Landing will already be done. Like, it'll be done in, and I don't know how exactly that'll work. It'll all work out. Maybe Cersei's at sea with Euron. I don't know though. But I think that's a very likely scenario. So if they stick with this, I think that's going to have to be, King's Landing's going to already have to be done. It's not going to come to, I don't know what's going to happen with Bronn yet. I'm not positive. Like, everything's kind of weird now, because I thought they'd have time to be able to move south. It doesn't seem like that'd be a possibility. So you start with King's Landing. Looks like you're going to get a lot of battle scenes. A lot of battle scenes of them repelling the White Walkers. And I think they're going to do pretty well this time. I don't think they're going to have the major defeat until the Night King is there. Unless he is already there and they just didn't show it. Because sometimes, they like to play games with us. And they like to do that kind of stuff. I don't know for sure. But I think that's a possibility. Bronn's going to have to be coming back in soon. So he's going to arrive at Winterfell. The Night King is going to I think he's probably going to make a reappearance, either at, because with the dragon, you could move around really quickly. You could move all over. You could move all over and and he could build a huge army. And why wouldn't he? Because they could go all the way down to the sea, and maybe all the way to the Twins. I'm not sure. I can't remember what rivers all run through there, but I'm guessing he can go pretty far south and be able to get quite a large army. Instead of just keeping 100,000 or whatever, he can come back with 1 million. An army that can create an endless night, like Bran was saying. And that makes sense. So that's what I'm going with right now. Night King is building an army. The generals that are at Winterfell are going to lose. They're going to get repelled. Somebody suggested that Bran might die, but I think after this last episode, and Bran saying he's like the history of the world, like he's like the epitome of like the world's knowledge, and they don't want to be erased. I think it has to be. I don't think Bran can die. I do think it's interesting that him and Tyrion have a conversation that they pull away from him. They don't tell you what happens in it. I do wonder what happened in that conversation and if we're going to come back there at a later point. because I have a feeling, and I think that's why Tyrion, I think that's part of how Tyrion's going to come to some kind of conclusion, is because he's already had this conversation off camera with Bran. I think it's possible he's going to figure something out, and him and Bran are going to come to some kind of realization about how to defeat the Night King. It's my idea. So yeah, what do we got? Night King, potentially down south, building an army. Maybe by the end of the episode, Rhys showing up at Winterfell, if he's not already there. So maybe he is already there. I don't think he is. I think what will happen is you'll have Winterfell repel the attack. I don't know who's all going to die yet, because I don't think a lot of the major characters will die this early. And I think a lot of them are not going to die at all. They're going to repel the attack. They're going to feel pretty good about it. The Night King is going to come with way more people. And then you're really going to have it set in where Winterfell is just encased, and everything is going to be overrun, and all those armies. Because I think basically I think almost all of Daenerys' armies are going to be destroyed, absolutely destroyed. They're not built for this type of warfare. And then that's the other problem, is they're going to be fighting all the reanimated bodies as well. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Yeah, I think that might be about it. And we'll kind of see where it goes from there, because I'm not sure what else we'll have in the meantime, other than mostly just battle. Some of the scenes for next week look a little weird. Like you see the Hound and Arya, like as if somebody has already gotten inside of Winterfell. And I don't know if that's a possibility or not. Like I don't know what's going on with that. I'm not sure, but so it should be pretty interesting. I think that's about all I can say for now in terms of what's possibly going to happen, because everything's kind of up in the air. It just depends on what they're doing with King's Landing, and if the Night King not being there or them not showing him means anything, because I think that makes sense as well. All right, well, I think that's probably about it. I'm hoping this cap helped me this time, so I don't have to come back next time and apologize again. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.